You found me. Good. Okay, good. All right, there I am. Still want me to be doing production studio?
No, we're live already.
Okay.
Every week we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Lord Zoom Live. I like to have plans. You know, I like to set things out. I like to get things working. I like to have things set up. I like to know what I'm talking about. And the problem is, if you do this too far ahead, world just takes over. Things happen, and suddenly everything you planned goes out the window. Not only does it go out the window, your friend in crime can't even get into the meeting because the settings are all wrong. You just don't know what's going to go right and what's going to go wrong, which is quite apt, really, because we're going to be talking about control. And when it comes to control, look, these software guys come up with fantastic pieces of software to allow us to control our worlds. They look beautiful. But Mike, I think the problem is, it's all well and good having pretty displays, but it's really difficult to control an event with a mouse and a keyboard. What would you think? What would you say to that?
Well, hello everybody. When it comes to as a matter of fact, I do quite a bit with mouse and keyboard myself through Production Studio, because right now Production Studio doesn't allow me to do too much when it comes to using the Stream Deck products, which John will be talking about here shortly. But when it comes to a lot of my other type of Zoom capable products, then yes, it absolutely makes it a lot more easier for me to, mute myself, unmute myself, when it comes to Zoom specifically. But again, since we are talking about production stuff today, I control a lot of my Stream Deck, and you'll say, Mike, it doesn't make any sense. But yes, I do control a lot of my A10 Mini Pro through my Stream Deck as well. And again, that's using not Elgato specific Stream Deck software, but that is actually using an open source piece of software called BitFocus Companion. So that software in itself has thousands of different production audio and video and lighting equipment that could be controlled by an itty bitty little 15-button Stream Deck all the way up to the brand new unit, which John's going to be talking about right now.
My friend, that exactly is my point. This has become a fundamental problem for the broadcast industry, as far as I see it. Because it's all well and good buying a beautiful piece of software from, say, Blackmagic, VizRT, two of the people we've chatted about, looked at recently. They both have fantastic equipment for video production. And then they have these enormous great control desks, which they then need to supply because people, can't move in a mouse. And that's all well and good. Those control units are fantastic. And guys, I've got room on my desk if you want to send me one. But what happens in the real world, and I know they would prefer us to not to do this, but in the real world, you don't just have one manufacturer you support, do you? You can't easily, and I know a lot of them try to do it, but you can't easily fit out a whole production system just from one manufacturer. There can't be a manufacturer in the world that's good at everything. So you get maybe all your control desks from one manufacturer, you have your cameras and controls from another manufacturer, maybe some of your production, creation, editing type software could be from another manufacturer, and suddenly you've got if you could afford it, 3 different control desks and 3 different manufacturers now to lay out on your desk. And this is where these very simple, innocuous little devices, controllers from Stream Deck and others, from this size till very big, as we'll see later, become useful. Because as you rightly say, you can buy a Stream Deck and you can go to the Stream Deck marketplace and you can do all the streamers type things. Like you can use this to control Twitch and OBS, and you can run a small, modest system, small and modest in size and small and modest in cost, but quite effective if you're going to have conversations when you're streaming with your users, when you're gaming. That works really well. But as you start to go up the tree of more complexity, for instance, if I want to change camera, I'm going to have to lean over here because that's where my A10 ISO is sitting to switch my cameras. But it allows remote control, so I can program a button on this Stream Deck or any of the other Stream Decks or any of the other controllers to control that, because beyond this ecosystem, we've got this other set of pieces of software, which, as you mentioned, is originally a community-based solution, which has a piece of software that sits in between these controllers and the systems that we're going to control. And lots. I mean, last time I looked down the list, I was just frightened. I didn't know so much equipment existed. And yet there are all these little modules that are being written by all these third parties to allow their device to come into the ecosystem so it can be controlled by a humble Stream Deck. And it blows me away when you watch TV back house type control room videos of BBC, NBC, and all these other companies who have racks of fantastic top of the range equipment, big lovely screens, desktop controllers that cost tens of thousands, and then somewhere embedded in the middle, have you seen it, Mike? You can spot the odd Stream Deck just sitting there innocuously for the extra buttons that they don't have on their main controllers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And again, when it comes to the different use cases of the Stream Deck, there is we'll be fair with Elgato Stream Deck, their initial use case was the Elgato line is for the gaming industry. Then the production industry went, well, we've always been looking for such type of interface capabilities that we can customize to do whatever we want it to do when we hit that button. And this is where BitFocus was born. That's the BitFocus company, and then BitFocus Companion, the actual software that is currently still open source. And you can now, as manufacturers or even the community that have taken it over as well, in the case of Zoom, we do have community members that maintain the Zoom capable products that are a plugin into BitFocus Companion, as an example. So it takes, so it doesn't take, as long as there is some sort of documentation on how over the network to be able to control your piece of kit, piece of gear, then, from a camera to a video switcher to an audio mixer to, whatever, really, as long as it is IP based and has some sort of command and response where I can say, okay, this, do something, and it says, yeah, I did it, then BitFocus Companion is perfect for that. Where again, the Elgato Stream Deck software that they currently are using and currently have implemented by default that you would need that at least with the Stream Deck if you bought it from them directly, that is more focused on, as John was saying, Twitch, you being able to go onto YouTube, you being able to broadcast onto YouTube, you being able to control OBS, doing certain functionality in OBS, I don't know if vMix is in there or not. I haven't double checked with that. And again, if I'm using for vMix, I'm making sure that I'm using BitFocus Companion. It's just something that I've gone to. I outgrew the BitFocus Stream Deck software almost immediately because I knew that my focus when I was getting it was going to be using it for the production world. And I knew that I was limited on what capabilities at the time, especially in the days when the original, again, John showed you that was what, the 6 button that you had there, John?
Yeah.
I went after mine is the 15 button, and exactly that one. So that's the one that I went after automatically, was the 15 button. But the reasoning behind that was that at the time, because I was an early adopter, that was the model. That was one of the original models. So I didn't have the bigger model or even the small model that John just showed you, where they actually have that in black, and then they were getting really cute and actually having that in white so that it fits your theme in your office, so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, a black thing on a white table. Let's say you've got a nice white table or such. So in that regards, they're sort of also going down that play too. And in the beginning as well, with the 15 button, they were also coming out with skins. So you could actually put a skin over top of the 15 buttons. But again, focusing on the gaming market, a lot of the skins were themed to be, if you're insert game name here, and they did they would take a popular picture of that and just cut out the 15 holes, then you'd be able to put that on the actual Stream Deck. So it gamified the Stream Deck itself controller. But all it is just a USB connection from the Stream Deck into your PC, Mac, Linux machine, anything that'll accept USB.
Yeah, so that's good.
it.
Yeah, I think the physical ecosystem would be a good thing to move on to then, because as you say, it's the Stream Decks traditionally, I say traditionally because I have to remember all the things that have now been added to the stuff. But these are traditionally a USB device. They connect to a PC, and then there is Stream Deck software that runs on that PC, and that Stream Deck software can then control something within that PC. And as you say rightly, it's been the marketplace of the streamings industry, the gamers, and that sort of marketplace that where Elgato has been spending most of its time. And if you go to the marketplace, the Elgato marketplace for apps, that is pretty much where all the work is being done. And these buttons are a little bit more. I think we've probably undersold them so far, Mike, because these buttons do have a little bit of control. There is a LCD. Let me pull up the one which has got the LCD picture on it at the moment. Oh, no, here's a prettier one I had earlier. So the buttons are actually small LCD screens, which can be controlled by the software, as in the software within the Stream Deck world. And then there are two functions on the button. There's the pressing in of the button and the releasing of the button, both of which can be actions that can be used elsewhere. And it's actually very easy. I'm trying to think of the best word to use there. It's actually very easy today to write simple apps that will work with the Stream Deck software and control the Stream Deck buttons. The latest version of the software is very much easier. In fact, I'm just thinking how I did the last one. I think you can, I got to be careful. I'm not going to guarantee this, but I'm pretty sure that the documentation is well explained to the point where you can probably, because I tried it and I don't think I had many mistakes, you can probably even get a Chat GPT or other type AI program to almost write the whole thing for you. The difficult bit of using these devices today is not writing the software for the buttons, because it is easy to use. And as I said, you can use AI. The difficult bit, of course, is the other end, because if you're going to have some buttons to do something, you need to be able to connect to something to do something. And if you don't have a connection to that particular piece of equipment that you can software-wise talk to it, then there is nothing you can do. But the industry already had moved a long way to remote controls through APIs and other protocols to allow it to be talked to. So there are many manufacturers now that have and publish software interface controls that other software, doesn't have to be Stream Deck, could be a piece of software of your own, but these programs can control other devices. Mike, would you like to give us a tour around your studio there and tell us which ones you control remotely? Either you can or can in theory control remotely with a Stream Deck?
Well, sure. Yeah. So again, there are a number of different things that I can do. Right now, again, there's, again, you could actually, with the different BitFocus, the actual BitFocus companion software, of course, we're not talking this generic Stream Deck software currently. So with the BitFocus companion software, again, as I was mentioning, you can control audio equipment, video equipment, lighting gear, if it's networkable. So you would have to have converters that would actually be able to talk to, DMX or ArcNet or whatever type of protocol that you're actually running with the lights on. So that would have to be able to do that. But again, as long as there is some sort of documentation for that piece of equipment and it's fairly popular, I know the database for BitFocus is actually quite large. I'm just trying to think what we have here. I'm just taking a quick look here to see what actually I have on my BitFocus companion as we speak. And so right now, it's BitFocus companion is saying that they are over 700 different devices that they can control.
And that's going to be more than 700. Well, they say 700 devices, but that's 700 manufacturers' connections. So some of those 700 are going to have multiple products within a range that will all get the same controls. So
Right.
it's 700 modules connecting to different things, but actually that's going to represent an even bigger number, isn't it?
Right, exactly. And the capabilities of, you know, the in the if you're able to make your own module in within Companion, and again, it's not outrageously hard to do. It's more of just understanding how to make, as a manufacturer, how to make the actual module. And if you spend the time to learn the companion documentation, reading the companion documentation, you'll be able to quite easily get a module working for that piece of gear, no matter if the manufacturer themselves or product is actually made a module as of yet. So that's why a lot of the modules that are available in Companion are community-based, community supported, and not necessarily brand made and support. Now, that doesn't say that there isn't, because there are brands that are understand that, you know, people are using Stream Decks for their gear. Especially, I've seen a lot of use of it in the audio world. More specifically, I know some of the larger touring bands will use a 15, if not the larger model, to actually control each individual different song that will be in the playlist of the artist, as an example. So they'll basically say, oh yeah, so I've got this button and now we're going to do this song now. So I've got that button, and all of a sudden all kinds of happens, right? All of a sudden audio stuff start to happen, video stuff start to happen, lighting stuff start to happen. Everything gets all ready to go. And
Yeah.
then they're just waiting for the band to start, right?
So-
By hitting one button.
Yeah. And let's open it up again from what you said. So the Stream Deck can to a limited degree, and the BitFocus Companion can to a much greater degree. Not maybe we've fibbed to you a little bit because it's bigger than this. I said you can press a button and you've got the two operations of down and up. But as Mike has given away the secret to the next level, in BitFocus Companion and in the Stream Deck, you can have multiple operations that are started by that one press. So you can press a button and then a whole cascade of actions can be sent out to different devices. So as Mike said, you could literally have a button for each song, and you could press a button and the lighting, it will send a message to the lighting controls to set up the next lighting rig for the next song. It can send a message to the audio to turn on the instruments that need to be listened to. It can change the camera directions and what's going to be seen on the LCD screens. You can see I've got a really ambitious band in my mind here, but that's all possible on one button. It just cascades a whole set of effects, and then they can create the whole thing. So the button may be initiation of multiple things that can happen. And this is where I think, personally, this takes it to the next level for the bigger production world. Although I do know streamers who will walk into their studio, and I'm thinking one particular friend of mine, he walks into his studio and he turns on his computers, and with one button, he has all his lights programmed in through, I think he uses those little intelligent plugs, yeah, that you can control with
Yeah,
Alexa
like
and
the-
etc.
Yeah, like a Philips Hue or something like that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and he presses one button and all his lights are all turned on, and they're all initiated, and then he has a couple of different scenes that he likes, depending if he wants intimate lighting or standing on the stage type lighting. So he has a couple of buttons which have different lighting sets. Different lights will come on or turn off or whatever to create a different atmosphere in his studio for two reasons. One is because it's really effective to mix up the studio, and secondly, I think he just likes to show off that he can do it. Well, we'll not say that. We'll not mention his name and embarrass him with that. He's a clever guy, and it's a great way of impressing people with what controls are available. He also has controls that allow him to interact with some things within Zoom. So he can spotlight people, he can raise a hand, he can do clever things like that. He's got controls that allow him to control OBS. So he can change his scenes in OBS, which therefore change the scene that he is in, might have some pop-ups or some lower thirds or stuff like that all appear. This is a very powerful system, and you can therefore see why, as Mike exampled in the touring band type space, it's very neat. But also within the broadcast space, it's also really neat to be able to hit a button and set off a sort of macro, but the macro just doesn't apply to one particular piece of equipment. It can cascade to multiple pieces of equipment. So let's push this a little bit further, because Mike, one of the really good things about Companion is we've said that these devices are connected to a machine by USB. And in the world of Stream Deck and Elgato's own software, that's where they stay. But BitFocus Companion thought this is not good enough. And BitFocus Companion can have versions of its software that can run on multiple devices throughout the studio, and can even send messages to each other and take over each other's controls. Would you like to expand on that?
Sure. Yeah. So that product is called, in the Companion world, Companion Satellite. So what it does is it says, okay, so I'm a companion on this different PC. Let's use PC as an example, because it could be a PC again, Mac, Linux machine. So I'm running Companion Satellite. And what Companion Satellite needs to do is connect to a companion, shall we call it server in this case. So a Companion Satellite basically can be pretty much anywhere that on an IP network that it can see the companion server. And the reason I said that like that, does that mean it can be on the internet? Yes, it can. But again, your security will vary, because there is, using Companion Satellite, you still have to make sure that the port is open between your firewall and Companion server to make sure that things work. So
yeah,
take that in consideration. There is not full security on Companion Satellite. But if you were to VPN, let's say, from a remote location that you have running Companion Satellite locally, and as long as you were on that now local network, and Companion Satellite can now again see Companion server, you can control anything at that remote location. So this is where remote production comes into play without necessarily needing that physical person at that location.
Yeah. And remote control could just be the next studio. Or as you say, if you set the networking up, it could be the next studio is 3,000 miles away, so in another country. So yes,
next there or different floor, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We are talking about Elgato most of the time. I say most of the time because we have to admit that Elgato has a range, and we've still got some more products to talk about in that range of products that work around these buttons ideas. But the BitFocus Companion world was obviously very interesting to other people that have control devices. And there are, Mike, I guess, dozens, if not hundreds, probably dozens, because I don't think there's that many manufacturers of control devices in the world, but a great deal of them have now written the controls so their control device can work in the BitFocus Companion world, so they can be as well or instead of a Stream Deck, and still going through BitFocus Companion can then control all of these other devices and systems that are out there.
Yeah. Again, this is the great thing about BitFocus Companion is that in the regards of the different type of interfaces, of course, its main focus when it started was the Stream Deck, 100%. So has it specialized itself to work for a Stream Deck? 100%. But it understands that it is, in theory, the Stream Deck really is just a MIDI controller.
Yep.
It just happens to be a really fancy one that has individual little screens that you can make any color you want, have a picture on it, or words, or text, or whatever. So it is, to your creativity, what is on that button. And as long as you understand what that means on that button as a user, you're off to the races. You know, as an example, I have one right now that says, Zoom cam on as one of my Stream Deck buttons. So obviously if I hit that, you would not see my camera. But that's very simple, right? And again, if I wanted to mute or unmute myself, I've also added that as well. So yes, is there something in Zoom that will be able to do this? Yes. And it's more focused on the Mac world, of course, which is the Zoom OSC software. How I've been able to do it a little differently is actually BitFocus themselves have come out with their own piece of software. And it's similar to just trying to make sure I've got the right information here. When it comes to, yes, that's right. It's called BitFocus, good old BitFocus again in their name, Listener. So what is BitFocus? Or even a shortcut of some sort where you would do an